But he's got two initiatives that I really want to bring to light really quickly. One is you've heard potentially of a KHL game coming to Jerusalem.
Yep.
Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the Maccabiah games, but that is essentially the Jewish Olympics, where countries come from all around the world, just like the Olympics, only with mostly Jewish athletes. Not all, but mostly. And there was, with some really nice donations from some NHL owners and from Gary Bettman himself in the NHL, they had transformed the arena in Jerusalem that Hapoel plays their basketball in for hockey. So the Maccabiah had 2017, they had hockey there. And of course, now that the facilities are in place to transform it when it's needed, the idea is to bring a KHL game to Jerusalem. Gusin, in his past experience playing in the CSKA system, is very good friends with Vyacheslav Fetisov.
Oh wow!
Who,
okay.
Really doesn't need any kind of introduction to any hockey fan the world over. So Fetisov and Gusin are working with a group to put on this KHL game in Israel to gauge interest. Israel has about 8 million people, and about 1 million of them are from the former Soviet Union. So the market for hockey here in Israel could really explode if those 1 million people are exposed to truly high-end world-class hockey, which the KHL could provide. So the idea is to have a game. They were trying to get it for this December, but it looks like with coronavirus and everything, it's going to happen next year, unfortunately. But it's going to happen. And the deal is in place. And then, the other thing that is being bandied about is the possibility of a KHL franchise being put into Israel to tap into the Russian and former Soviet population that's here in Israel, 1 million strong. If they can get a KHL team in, Beijing, China, they have Kunlun Red Star in the KHL. And if they've had KHL franchises in other countries outside of Russia and outside of the former Soviet Union, which they have done, there's no reason they shouldn't be able to do it in Israel. And if you think about the distances for the travel, it's really not that far compared to the rest of Europe. So if they were thinking about either Jerusalem or Haifa to put a KHL club, and Evgeny Gusin's behind the initiative to see if that can happen. We don't know if it's going to happen, but they are trying. And at the very least, they're going to bring a KHL game to Israel to gauge interest, and it'll be super exciting. If, in fact, a KHL club does come to Israel, we're hoping that while that would obviously be the huge focus for Israeli hockey fans, having a team in the second best league in the world, we're really hoping that it would help as a springboard to really grow the Israeli domestic league and have some more interest in that league from the Israeli population. Now you'll see people anywhere from, 25 or 50 at a game to maybe 250, 300 at a game. The finals, Ariel, you can confirm this. I think in Holon at Ice Peaks in Holon, I think during the finals they can have 400 or 500 people maybe, but that's about as much as they get.
Yeah.
So to if a KHL team came, we're hoping it could actually trickle down and help not only raise the level, but interest in the domestic league and maybe help with sponsors and everything else. And the last thing I did want to bring up, today, Hayden, was that one of the Israeli National Hockey Society's initiatives is that we're trying to put together a semi-pro level summer league in Israel along the lines of what they have in Australia or New Zealand, where they do it in the summer so that it doesn't conflict with other leagues. And then we're hoping, put you on the spot here a little bit, Ariel, we're hoping that we would get players of the caliber of Ariel, guys his age, guys who have not everyone has to have a connection to Israel, people who would be, interested in just seeing what the lifestyle is like in Israel and the weather and living on the beach in Tel Aviv with palm trees and getting to play some competitive hockey for the summer. Maybe someone who has a deep Christian faith might want to come and see where Jesus preached and walked. And also, of course, Jewish players from around the world who are of decent caliber and might be playing pro elsewhere. We'd like to try and attract them to come. The plan is originally for, a 4-team to 5-team small summer league, maybe a dozen games and then playoffs. But if we can launch that, we think it can ultimately really help grow the game in Israel.
I mean, if you need a couple of British guys to come and help commentate the games, or if you want some extra coverage, just let Chris and I know. We'll be over there. Why not? Summer in Israel, we'll take it.
Absolutely. Don't tease, because if we start that, you may be with a camera and doing more things like this only on the ice. That would be great.
I'll take it 100%, and I think Chris would too. So I'm really glad
Excellent.
that you mentioned the KHL game, because once again, Mark, you're giving me some fantastic segues to get all of the little piece of information I wanted to get done. So as far as you're aware, because obviously there's a lot of things that have come up globally. There's a lot of other pieces of information and things that need to be finalized or discussed. When we mentioned it on our show a couple of weeks ago, it was Avangard Omsk and CSKA Moscow. Are they the 2 teams that have been finalized as the teams that are coming over?
To my knowledge, yes. I mean, anything's obviously subject to change, but my understanding is it was CSKA Moscow and Avangard, yes.
Which, I mean, 2 fantastic KHL teams, some of the best teams in the league, which, once again, to get 2 of the best teams, because there's one thing Chris and I have talked about throughout this podcast series over the last couple of months is that there's a bit of a disparity between the top teams and the bottom teams in the KHL, especially over the last few years. The salary cap obviously being introduced this year, the flat salary cap as opposed to the luxury cap, has definitely helped that with a lot of teams. But Omsk and CSKA Moscow always consistently at the top of the standings, both in the West and the East. So to get 2 very strong, established teams full of Russian stars, former NHL players, that's only going to do wonders for the game, and hopefully bringing attention to sort of the potential of hockey in Israel, right?
Yeah, one would hope, and I think Ariel, did you play Maccabi?
I did. I just turned 18 and I played with the adults. Yeah.
You played in the Men's Open in 2017?
Yeah.
So
nice.
I think Ariel can tell you when they what's the name of the arena there in that Hapoel plays out of?
Well, Israel has an amazing basketball league, amazing, and the second best team in Maccabi Tel Aviv is Jerusalem. They have a world-class facility, like locker rooms, and it was amazing. And to transfer that into a hockey rink was mind-blowing to have in Jerusalem. And I'm sure that all of the really good Maccabi players that came from the United States enjoyed it so much. And to have a KHL game there is more than surreal, because that arena.
Yeah. And you guys had some fans, though. I mean, there are tapes of the games. Hayden, I can send them to you, actually, and
sure.
We'll get them up. We'll get them up on the Society's site. But I have, I know you guys played, Russia sent a team to Maccabi in 2017 that consisted of, it was a mix of VHL, their 3rd league, what is that, Prevea Liga, and then they had, the top Russian junior league, the MHL.
Yeah.
So their roster was a combination of VHL, Prevea Liga, and MHL guys. And, they beat the Israeli national team, but, they played them twice and they won both times, but once was the bronze medal game, unfortunately. But Ariel will tell you that we were in those games. They didn't blow us out.
Yeah.
They were, what was it, 7-4 and something like that? I don't remember the other score, but one was, they were within a couple of goals. And you guys had some fans, right? I mean, the arena wasn't full because a lot of Israelis didn't necessarily know about it, but I think there was at least a section or 2 in the arena that was just jam-packed with fans, and they were chanting. I mean, you can expand on that, Ariel, and let Hayden know, what the atmosphere was like for you.
Please do.
Well, Canada and the U.S. during the gold medal game, I don't know if you guys know, they had over 10,000 fans, and it was an event. It was one hell of an event, really. Us between Russia playing the bronze medal game, we thought we had him because we lost the last game 7-4, and it was pretty tight, and we felt like we were a bit younger, we had more legs, but yeah,
It happens, but you guys had a couple thousand fans, right? I mean, you know,
yeah.
Look, when you're in a huge arena like that and you only have a couple thousand fans, it seems empty. But the reality is for hockey in Israel to go from, you know, your typical league game with 200 people attending a game to all of a sudden having, you know, 1,500 or 2,500 fans to support the national team, that's a step, right? And everything's a step. So if all of a sudden we can go and get a KHL game where people jam the arena, and now all of a sudden there's a domestic league that, while certainly not of the same caliber, is on the rise. You know, if we can start getting, you know, in the little rink in Holon, 500 people a game instead of 50 people a game or 200 people a game, it's a start. And all you can ask for is steps. And that's really what we're looking to build.
Exactly.
I have a question for Hayden. What do you think should be the next steps for Israeli hockey to get to where England hockey is, you know, from having 1 to 2 to 3 rinks and then expanding our summer league? Like, what are the right steps? Because you can't just go, like, I feel like it needs to be, yeah.
Okay, so I will preface this by saying I am not an expert. This is purely my own thoughts and opinions. I've only been following the British League for the last sort of 4 or 5 years. What I do know is our league has been around for a very long time, like rivaling kind of NHL, AHL periods of time. As far as I'm aware, some of the oldest teams we have in this country, the Nottingham Panthers was, I think, started up either around about the time or just before the Second World War, so the 40s. And a team in Scotland, the Fife Flyers, were around in the 30s, I believe. So we had a couple of teams there which, you know, they've been around a long time, and obviously it's been a slow burn to get where we are today. Our league is obviously still very much a lower tier league in the European circuit. We're obviously, like we've mentioned earlier in this episode, been on the rise. I think the first thing is just the primary thing. I think anybody that's either played or watched hockey would agree with this. You just need to find people. You just need to get people into the arena. Because once they've made it into the arena, they fall in love with the sport and they want to come back, right? I think you could ask 99.9% of hockey fans, like, when they watched their first game, did they want to watch another one? Like, they're always going to answer yes, because it's so fast-paced and it's so quick and there's always a lot going on. And, like, I think especially fans of basketball, for example, and obviously because that's big in Israel, like you guys mentioned, it's got that same kind of quick, fast-paced feel to it. But hockey's even faster. There aren't as many stoppages in the sort of average game of hockey. There's the fouls in basketball obviously can slow the game down quite a lot, whereas in hockey, you just send the guy to the box and you keep playing. So I guess it's just a case of finding a way to get those fans to, first of all, recognize that, like, Israel has that league and they have this infrastructure already in place, and then to get them into the stands to watch the games. Because I feel like that's been the biggest a roadblock that we've had here in the UK, is the fact that we have a really good infrastructure in place. And Marc's obviously mentioned a lot of the sort of the good things that we've done over the last sort of 5-10 years. However, the vast population of our country that don't live in one of the cities where where the teams are, don't know that we have hockey. I could ask all of my friends around my area where hockey isn't a big thing. I could ask them, they'd say, no, wait, we have hockey here, like, and we have a professional league that plays against some of the best teams in Europe every year. Like, that's such an alien concept to a lot of them. So I think kind of getting the sport in people's minds and going, look, we have a professional league here in Israel. We have some pretty good hockey players here. Oh, and then let's have a look at some of the other players that are, like Ariel, for example, that are playing D3 hockey over in Boston. You know, like, that all comes from getting those people in the stands. And I think the details that Marc mentioned with the KHL game, that's going to do wonders for a program like the Israeli hockey program. Because, I mean, like you mentioned, there's a huge influx of people from the former Soviet Republic and Russia that have moved to Israel. So if they can tap into that market and the Israelis there, because like we mentioned, you get people into the stands, they enjoy it, bringing 2 of the best teams on this side or your side of the continent over in Israel, that's going to do wonders. And I think it's a slow burn. It's a really slow burn. But once it starts to pick up momentum and snowball a little bit, that's when you start to see all the progress. Would you say that's fair, Marc?
I do. The only thing I do want to point out is, we don't have a pro league in Israel. The National League is still an amateur level league. Like I said, it's basically like collegiate club, intercollegiate club, and junior B type level. But we are looking to do that summer league because it's a smaller amount of teams and a more compressed schedule at a time of the year where it doesn't really interfere with other higher level leagues. We're hoping to attract a semi-pro caliber to that summer league. And in turn, if somebody falls in love with Israel and playing hockey there, maybe they'll want to stay in the domestic league. Again, the only thing is, it's like anything else in hockey or any sport, it's money. So what we need to do is really attract corporate sponsorship and some benefactors that care about the country who happen to be hockey fans that have the ability and desire to help it grow. In order to do that, I think even if the level of play is still considered amateur, if we got Hayden, somebody like yourself, to come for the summer league, and we had some high quality live video streaming, some maybe even getting something on television in Israel. Really, it just needs to be exposed to a wider base. The 2013-2014 Israeli League Championship game is the only time that Israeli League hockey has been televised to a Israeli national audience on TV.
Wow.
Israel channel, TV channel 9. It was a Russian language broadcast, but they did the whole game the same way you would see an EIHL or even an NHL game. They did it, and it attracted a lot of attention at the time. The issue is, how do we get, for the Israeli domestic league and for this summer league that we're planning, how do we get that on Israeli television? How do we get the newspaper beat reporters to start covering it? How do we, if we can't even get that, at least not yet, how do we get a high quality live stream on a YouTube channel and promote it through social media so that enough people know about it and they want to watch it? And that's one of the reasons I'm doing something like this podcast today, is because we want to get the word out there. And one of the ways we're doing that is through, the society with IsraelHockey.com. That's one of the things that we're trying to do as that first step to really try and start elevating the profile of the sport, both inside of Israel for the Israeli public, but also for people around the world who happen to have an interest in Israeli hockey.